Good evening, everyone. And my name is Ajibola Oladejo, and I'm the Director of Administration and also ASFRJ Editorial Assistant. And I'm happy to take us through the next section. I really want to say thank you so much, Prof. Iman, for that, because I mean that was so detailed. Like I'm like just like what Professor Bright said. I was like, if anybody makes mistake, I'm like even drawing my hair. Like if anybody makes mistake, because that was so detailed. Thank you so much, Prof. Okay, so my own section. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I'll be taking us through. Please, can you all see my screen?
Yeah, we see your screen. If you can just put it on presentation mode.
Yeah. All right. So, um, okay. So I'll be taking us through the pre-acceptance process. So, this presentation will be focused on what really happens, the details that really happens after you have submitted your papers, and that is why I'm so grateful. Um, that's why I'm so grateful to Prof. I don't know why. Okay. Good. So, like Prof has mentioned, ASFRJ is, one of our goal is to ensure that there's quality in everything that we do and there's excellence. I mean, that is one of the watchword for ASFI and also ASFRJ, that everything we do and everything that comes out of ASFI and its subsidiaries, all, I mean, have that stamp of excellence. And that is why we see that all papers that are also submitted to ASFI Research Journal undergo a thorough peer review process. And this thorough peer review process, um, it is not just anyone, but we invite experts, and not just ordinary experts, but experts who are in that field, in that topic area, to provide critical assessment of all submitted manuscripts as we have mentioned, and Professor Iman has emphasized, ASFRJ is a multidisciplinary journal. And that was why you saw that even in the editorial board, you saw that there were various associate editors and even sectional editors. And it is because of the multidisciplinary nature of ASFR Research Journal, right? Okay. So Prof. Iman has taken us through all this. And that is why at the end of my presentation, you see that one thing I kept on emphasizing is read and read and read and read and read all instructions. Because why am I saying this? Is because once you are there to all instructions, once everything looks good, then you are sure that the amount that it takes for your paper to actually be published will take fewer times. But one thing I've noticed is that once you submit your papers and they do not adhere to ASFRJ standard, and they do not conform to all our guidelines and all our instructions, they are being returned. And this back and forth, I mean, takes a lot of time. Even on yourself, it takes a lot of energy, some time that you're supposed to use, to focus on something else. You are just there, you keep repeating, revising, you keep correcting the paper. And as we know, we are Africans, and they say what time is money. So please, that was if there is something that I'll keep emphasizing, it's just that please read instructions, adhere to instructions. And what are some of the consequences? It's just that your papers will be returned, and then there will be delay in the peer review process. Professor Heman has taken us through the author's guidelines, and towards the end of my presentation, I'll be sharing the links for us to go through. Please, if you know that you'll be submitting, and of course you'll be submitting to ASFR Research Journal, please go to the author's guidelines and read through and through. Read through. I think one thing that I've also noticed a lot about ourselves is that we don't want to really read. I mean consciously reading. Most times, all what we want to do is just to gloss over, just to say, okay, I fulfilled all righteousness. And in that way, it doesn't help us, and it will not even help us in any way. Not even when it comes to what do they call it? Maybe when it comes to this particular topic we are talking about, but I mean in every other aspect of life. And that is why you see that most of our, I'm sorry, I'm branching into that area. That's why you say that most of our leaders will also go to most of these top international conferences, and they go for, and then at the end of the day they just sign. They don't even read, I mean, what constitutes the contract. They don't, and that is what also happens to us. Some of times, the terms of contract, and all we just do is just to take our pen and sign. And at the end of the day, when situation arises, and then they will say, "But you already signed this paper." So please, I would just implore us to please read and read and read and read and read and read. Yeah. Okay. So, what is the submission process all about? Um, I want to emphasize again that you should please submit only when your paper is ready, and when you have ensured that you have adhered to all instructions. Then also the importance of your cover letter, like it has been emphasized last week, it has also been emphasized by Professor Hima. Please, your cover letter is just like you selling yourself. Is that first impression? And we have seen various types of cover letter that sometimes I think, oh my God, like, is this really sometimes I put a question mark on some cover letters that we receive, and I think it really shows why Africa is the way Africa is. So the submission portal, Professor Iman has showed us. Towards the end of my presentation, I'll also make some little demo, if there is time. And she has also told us that we have to sign up in case we are not yet registered. We have to either sign in or sign up, right? Then also, let me then go on. Yes, this is how the interface looks like. Once you, mine is like this because I am already signed in, right? That is why mine looks like this, but we might also do a demo, right? Then once we submit, um, what are the items that you need for submission? You will need your papers, right? You will need your cover letter. So those are some of the things that you need to get ready. You will need the names and emails of your co-authors. That is, if you are writing with others. Then you also need to suggest reviewers. And just like Professor Iman mentioned, please, you are only allowed to submit the names of these reviewers, and it's not really mandatory that the editorial board then go ahead and then use the make use of the reviewers that you have submitted. And one other thing that has been emphasized is the disclosure. Just like what I mentioned, most times we keep on taking and taking and taking instead of us to truly and properly read through all those content carefully, because you have to know what you are declaring on. So now, what really happens? I think let me quickly go on to this flow chart so that we can just, let me quickly give a summary. So now, once your paper is submitted to the portal, right? It goes to the editorial assistant. So the editorial assistant checks through your paper. Then if it adheres to all instructions, then we are looking at the referencing now. We are looking at the format. We are looking at the outline. We are looking at the numbers. Yeah, the numbers of word. Because for ASFIRJ, we have different, let me say, the required amount of word that is required for each of the different papers. So we are also looking at the numbers of the words in your abstract. Most times it's between 250 and 300. So if it's more than this, then you have to like revise it. That is why we keep on emphasizing that please adhere to the author's guidelines, because once you adhere to the author's guidelines, it makes the work easier. It even makes things easier for you. And once it comes to the editorial assistant, if your paper is it's okay, then it goes straight to the handling editor. So the handling editor now might be in the form of the sectional editor or the associate editor, depending on your area of discipline. But if it doesn't adhere to the manuscript, then it goes back to the author. So once it goes back to the author, then we give another maybe 1 or 2 weeks. So you can see it is really extending the number, the duration of when your papers would be published. So after correction, it goes to the handling editor. That means once you have returned the paper to the dashboard, it goes to the handling editor. Then the handling editor invites the reviewers. So once the reviewers have been invited, they are also given the duration of about 2 weeks to review your manuscript. Once their report comes in, that is if all reviewers are there to that 2 weeks, because we have seen in some cases whereby they extend the 2 weeks and then we have to send them reminders. So the duration of your manuscript being published also depends greatly on number one, the reviewers, the duration in which they take, and also if it is very, very easy for us to find these reviewers. So afterwards, once the reviewers report comes in, because now most times we look at the minimum of 2 reviewers and the maximum at most 4 to 6. So once their report comes in, it is being compiled by the handling editor. Then the handling editor looks through the comments that the reviewers have made. Then he or she also gives his own comments and decision. Then he sends to the editor-in-chief, or the editor. That's the editor-in-chief, the editor. Then once the handling editor sends in the final decision to the author for review. So once this decision comes in and the editor makes this final decision, or the editor-in-chief makes this final decision, the decision goes back to the handling editor. You know, the handling editor has been the one in charge of the reviewers and all that. So the handling editor sends it back to the author. So the author then makes the correction of the manuscript. Then after that, goes through the review process again. And it is not just new reviewers this time around, but we are looking at those that have looked at the papers earlier. So it goes through, and then, the question is being asked, and we say, okay, can you please go through this manuscript once again, because they have effected the corrections and the comments that you actually made. So once it is satisfactory, the manuscript is accepted for publication. If it is not satisfactory, the reviewers can also say, they are at liberty to also say that, okay, they can also say, okay, I don't think this author has satisfactorily attended to my comment. And I also want to give a tip here. Please, the reviewers have every right on your paper. So you also need to use your wisdom in replying to them. But if you are there and then you keep trying to show that, oh, I know this thing and I know that, and you keep struggling and all that, they are the ones making the decision. So it is like you are at their mercy. So if I would give a very, very good tip, is just that please know how to respond with wisdom to the reviewers, because they are the ones in charge of the decision about a manuscript either being published or not. So once this has been accepted, then it goes straight for the post-acceptance procedure and production. But there's one caveat. If your manuscript is rejected, then authors can write an appeal. So once your manuscript is rejected, it is not just the end of everything. You can still come back and say, okay, I think I can still make some amendments as it pertains to what the reviewers have mentioned, and I am writing an appeal towards my manuscript being rejected. So if the appeal is accepted, then it goes through the process all over again. It goes through the entire review process all over again. Okay. So the duration, just like what I've mentioned, it depends. Normally, we normally give 2 weeks for the reviewers to read your manuscript, then send in the report. But then it also varies. And what are the factors that influence your paper's duration? I mean, your manuscript being published. Number one is the readiness of the manuscript to be sent to the peer review. So if ASFIRJ instructions are properly adhered to, then it takes a little moment of time. Then also, sometimes, depending on the topic and the scope, it might not be so easy to find reviewers for that particular manuscript. So that also takes away some time, right? It also adds more to the time that is being taken to publish your manuscript. Then also another factor is the time taken by peer reviewers to also return their manuscript. They might take longer, and then we keep giving them extension of maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. And that really drags the whole process. Then there are also some reviewers that that don't actually return some reviews. So some might just decide not to, even after they have accepted and they have agreed to say that, okay, I'll be reviewing this manuscript. They might decide not to give response, and we have several of that. So in that case, then we have to start looking for other reviewers to review that particular paper. But that is if we do not have the minimum required, which is like 2. Yeah, but once we have the minimum requirement of reviewers, then we are good to go. So what are some of the reasons why your paper can be rejected in ASFIRJ? And we have seen that we have published in for the maiden edition, and we have seen that most of them has been rejected even at the editorial level before they are even sent to the peer reviewers, right? So and this has been a really it has really been a big issue, because it's really an issue of concern. And I think it all depends on what I mentioned earlier, by us reading instructions, adhering to instructions, and ensuring that our manuscript follow the guidelines. I mean, if we truly want to publish in ASFIRJ, then it means that we have to also follow the guidelines that have been given, right? So what are some of the reasons not following ASFIRJ's manuscript structure and formatting, even after the editorial staff or assistant asks you to restructure and resubmit? We have seen examples whereby people will keep on returning the same manuscript, and then you wonder if they actually are there to the corrections that have been given. Because once your manuscript comes in and and it doesn't conform to ASFIRJ standard, what we do is that we write out the corrections that you're supposed to make. But we see that once we give out these corrections that you're supposed to make, we see that some of them still return with this same paper without adhering to those corrections that have been given. Then another reason is carelessness in manuscript preparation and writing. We have also seen some papers where they are not properly aligned, they are not properly written, even in terms of grammar, in terms of the references style. And also, we have also seen that some of the papers, there are different types of papers that ASFIRJ accepts. But we have also seen that some papers that are submitted for some types of papers and do not really conform to that particular outline, if you can understand what I mean. So if all of this is not in place, then the papers are rejected even before it gets to the peer review stage. Then also, one of the reasons why your paper can be rejected is when you do not give a clear conflict of interest. When none of the authors, that means if you are writing with more than one, I mean, if you are writing with more than 1 or 2 authors, when none of the authors declare if they are involved in other practices that compromise the validity of the manuscript. So there should be a clear conflict of interest when you are submitting your paper, right? And ensure that your study also meets basic requirements for quality in design and execution. Thoroughly read ASFIJ author's instructions at this particular link. Then also prepare your manuscript according to the journal structure and formatting. And if your paper is returned for not adhering to the journal's requirement, is another opportunity. And I can give a clear example. This actually happened to me. A manuscript of mine was returned to me for corrections. And by the time I worked on it, I was even surprised. I was really surprised. I really sat and I said, oh my God. So what was the difference between, what was wrong with, why did I write that paper initially the way I wrote it as compared to when I now rewrote it? Like it was. So I think also when papers are returned, it's also a way for us to, to build our capacity and work on it. So it is just that once your papers are returned, please carefully revise it and also resubmit. And also, please do not try to prove to the editorial staff that you are right when you are not right. Then follow the instructions religiously, and remember that journal publishing is the main avenue to sell your science and research. And so you have to also do it with the dignity that it requires. Because if we are saying that we are disseminating knowledge, then everything that that goes through that process must also follow the that excellent standard that it requires. So what are some of the mistakes that authors make, that authors make and that we have realized is that most of the time you can see that if you can see one common thread and one common pattern in this presentation is the fact that we keep on emphasizing on the instructions of reading instructions. So some of the mistakes that authors make is not reading the instructions and they're not adhering to it. So one thing is not reading, and another thing is to adhere to the instructions. So you can read the instructions and you might not even adhere to them. And also you prefer, we have also seen some cases whereby whereby some manuscripts are submitted according to some other standards, according to some other journal standards, instead of you to conform to, and this is not only even when it comes to ASFRJ, but I think it's just a standard practice that once you are trying to submit your paper to any journal, why not first go to their website and look at their own instructions and how they really want their papers to be submitted, right? If you truly want to publish in that particular journal. Then another mistake is that most authors are very anxious to publish without counting the cost. Actually, I've also come to understand that publishing comes with a cost. It really comes with a cost. And that is why it is one of those criteria for your promotion, right? It's one of those criteria to really show what you have been doing or your contributions to the body of science. So if it's a criteria to show your contribution to the body of science, it means that then it means that it might not be so easy. So if you know that it is not so easy, then it means that you have to put in extra effort. You have to put in extra effort, and you have to also put in more time, right? So another reason why or common mistakes that authors make is failure to adhere to the journal timelines and not communicating their situation. So it is one thing for you to say, okay, I think I need an extension, right? I think I need some, I don't think I can finish up within this particular time. And the journal would definitely give to you that extension if you truly ask in a very, very polite manner, and if you really state your situation. We have had situations where authors have returned and they have mentioned that, oh, they will love some weeks extension, they will love some days extension, and even not only when it comes to manuscript submission or when it comes to the authors, but even when it comes to the reviewers also. Some reviewers have come and they have told us that, okay, I would love some extension in this area, and they have been given. But if you just go silent and then you did not give any feedback, I don't think that is so good enough. Then like I've mentioned, most of these mistakes cause a lot of delays in as that when your manuscript are supposed to be published, right? Okay, so these are the major links for manuscript publication in ASFRJ Research Journal. We have included several links here, even several links to look at the processing fee, the author's instructions, and if you need to make any inquiries at all, we have also included the emails. Then if you need to connect with us on LinkedIn, all of that is there, and also our WhatsApp, Instagram, and X platform. And remember, in case you are stuck, in case you need any assistance, please kindly reach out to us, and then we'll be very, very glad to help you out. So the last one, like I said, and if you have really noticed something that I've really emphasized on all throughout this presentation, is to read and read and read all instructions carefully, again and again and again.